Hola and welcome to online class. Our objective for today is to learn how to use the present tense of ser, our first verb. Let's start by comparing English to Spanish. What is the English equivalent of the verb ser? It's the verb to be, and the forms are I am, you are, he or she is, we are, and they are. So there are three present tense forms of the English verb to be: am, is, are. The Spanish verb to be has 6 different forms that correspond to the 6 categories of subject pronouns. We will look at this more in depth in just a moment. Since this is our first verb, it's a good idea to go over a few key grammatical terms that relate to verbs. First, what is a verb? It's the action of a sentence, and the subject is the actor, the noun that does the action of the verb. A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. There are different types of pronouns. Subject pronouns are pronouns that take the place of the subject or actor of the sentence. Finally, the term conjugate refers to how we change the forms of a verb to agree with the subject or actor of the sentence. Now let's take a closer look at subject pronouns. Both English and Spanish have subject pronouns. There are 3 types: first person, second person, and third person. Let's review how these 3 types are different. First person subject pronouns represent the person who is talking. Second person subject pronouns represent the person someone is talking to. And third person pronouns represent the person that someone is talking about. There are singular and plural forms of each type. Here's a list of the subject pronouns in English. The first person pronouns are I in the singular form and we in the plural form. The second person pronouns are you for both singular and plural. The third person forms are he, she for singular and they for plural. Now let's compare these forms with the Spanish equivalents. The first person forms in Spanish are yo for singular and nosotros or nosotras for plural. Yo is the Spanish equivalent of I, and nosotros or nosotras is the Spanish equivalent for we. Nosotros is used when the group that is speaking is comprised of all men or both men and women. Nosotras is used when the group that is speaking is all women. The third person Spanish pronouns are él for he, ella for she, and ellos or ellas for they. Again, ellos is used to talk about a group of all men or a group of men and women. Ellas is used to talk about a group of just women. Now let's look at the second person pronouns in Spanish. Do you notice anything interesting? In English, we have just one second person subject pronoun, you. But in Spanish, we have 5 forms that mean you. So the question becomes, when do we use each of these second person subject pronouns? The first issue has to do with formal versus informal address in Spanish. We don't have a distinction between formal and informal address in English. So this is a new concept for us. Tú is an informal and singular equivalent of the English pronoun you. It's used when speaking to one person that you would address informally, meaning someone you would normally address by his or her first name. The usted form is a formal and singular equivalent of the English pronoun you. It's used when talking to one person that you would address formally, meaning someone that you would address normally by his or her last name. Ustedes also means you, but in a plural sense, like y'all. In Latin America, it is used in both formal and informal context. In Spain, however, it is only used in formal context because there's another form for y'all in Spain. That form is vosotros or vosotras. It is only used in Spain, and it means y'all. It is used to address an informal group, such as a group of friends. Vosotros is used when the group being addressed is comprised of all men or both men and women. Vosotras is used when the group being addressed is all women. And now that we've discussed all of the subject pronouns in both English and Spanish, let's move on to our first verb, ser. We said there were 6 forms of this verb and that each subject pronoun corresponds to one of these forms. Take a look at the first, second, and third person forms of the verb ser. These 4 forms correspond to the first, second, and third person subject pronouns that we just looked at. So when we conjugate the verb ser, soy corresponds to yo, Eres corresponds to tú. Es corresponds to él, ella. Somos corresponds to nosotros and nosotras. Sois corresponds to vosotros and vosotras. And son corresponds to ellos and ellas. The one exception is usted and ustedes. Even though usted and ustedes are second person subject pronouns, they use third person verb forms. So in other words, you say usted es and ustedes son. Now it's your turn to give it a try. Inténtelo. What form of ser would you use with the following subjects? Go ahead and pause the video here so you can give it a try. And then when you're ready to see the answers, hit play. And the answers will show up on the next slide. And here are the answers. Respuestas. Yo soy, nosotros somos, ustedes son, vosotros sois, ellos son, Mariana es, Mario y yo somos. Now that you have mastered the conjugation of the verb ser, we need to talk about when it is used. There are four main uses of the verb ser: to identify nouns, to describe the origin of someone or something, to tell someone's profession, and to express possession. For each of these uses, there is a basic sentence structure that we use. This structure is outlined on the screen. To identify something, the formula is basically noun plus the corresponding form of ser plus the name. For example, ella es Mariana. To describe origin, we include the noun, the form of ser, the word de, and the place of origin. For example, ella es de México. For profession, we just put the noun, the corresponding form of ser, and the profession, with no indefinite article un or una. For example, Mariana es doctora. In English, we would say Mariana is a doctor, but in Spanish, we just say Mariana es doctora with no una. And finally, for possession, we use the formula, the possession itself, the corresponding form of ser, de, and then the owner, such as el libro es de Mariana. Now it's your turn to give it a try. Inténtelo. ¿Cómo se dice? She is Gloria Estefan. She is from Cuba. She is a singer. The word is cantante. And this is Gloria Estefan's book. Go ahead and pause the video for a moment. Figure out how you would say each phrase in Spanish. And then when you're ready, hit play and you'll see the answers. And here are the answers. Respuestas. Ella es Gloria Estefan. Ella es de Cuba. Ella es cantante. Since this is a profession, we don't use the una. El libro es de Gloria Estefan. ¿Preguntas? Any questions for me? Always feel free to email me if you have any questions when you are doing your online class activities. My email is shown here. Hasta pronto!